in Ohio, how many people did God bring out of Egypt? Okay, that's a good question, and we know it's not written an exact count, but we can make an educated guess of how many, because we have in the book of Numbers a numbering of the fighting men of Israel who came out of Egypt. And in the first chapter you find that, and it was 603,550 fighting men. Emphasize fighting men, because then we have to consider boys who are not of fighting age. We also have to consider elderly men who are beyond fighting age, and we also have to consider women and girls. So I estimate, and I think it would be a fairly accurate guess, of 2.1 million people that God brought out of Egypt. And that in itself is amazing, because do you remember how many went into Egypt? 70. And that's how blessed. Israel was in oppression, all right, for 400 years under the Egyptians, but they were pretty prosperous as far as reproducing children during that time of period. Verse 2. Your second question, I should say, what does being baptized in the Holy Spirit and then can speak in an unknown tongue, what does that mean? In my thinking, it seems to be a fake ritual. Well, I kind of join right in with you on that, Betty, and unfortunately that is a false teaching that is evidence of the Holy Spirit being in you when you become a Christian. In some churches, you must speak this unknown language, which is, and I'll just say it like I think it is, it's gibberish. It's unknown. People have to have an interpreter stand next to them and tell you what the gibberish means. That's not evidence of the Holy Spirit in a language. Acts chapter 2, verses 4, 5, and 6, we learned that there were people there from all over the world that spoke almost every language in the world. And when the disciples spoke that cloven tongue of the Holy Spirit, everyone understood what they said. They didn't need an interpreter standing next to them. So I agree with you. It seems like a bunch of falsehood. And unfortunately, the real tragedy in it is that a lot of people in those churches feel guilty because they don't honestly have that gibberish urge to speak in this unknown language. And then the others they make them feel like, I'm sorry, you don't have the Holy Spirit in you. The way we get the Holy Spirit in us is believing on Jesus Christ. Give John chapter 14 a read. He said, I'm leaving you to the disciples, but I'm going to pray to the Father, and He will leave you a comforter. You know who that comforter is? It's the Spirit of God, the Holy Spirit.